Can you leave the starting area early in Tears of the Kingdom? Tears of the Kingdom starts with a bang that puts you somewhere quite unexpected. Link awakens on a series of sky islands similar to the Great Plateau from Breath of the Wild. And it's at this point that Link must navigate these islands while unlocking all his new abilities before ultimately being allowed to leave. Now I know this game just came out, but one thought immediately filled my mind. Could players leave this great sky island before clearing all its conditions? So I set out on my quest to find out. I hope you enjoy. While Link's the prestigious champion of Hyrule, he could have a few of his own champions on his Purapad with Raid Shadow Legends, the sponsor of this video. Raid Shadow Legends, the RPG for iOS and Android, as well as PC, lets you organize teams of champions in billions of possible ways to take on giant bosses, dungeons, story mode, and other players in PvP. There's hundreds of artifacts you can equip and over 650 different champions you can master. You can play Raid anywhere, and my top 3 places to play are when I'm falling uncontrollably from the sky, when I'm trapped for 100 years in a shrine, and when I'm questioning my life choices as advanced killer robots are hunting me down. Even when the odds are stacked against me, I know my Raid champions are still battling it out. I think what I've always enjoyed about Raid is just the crazy amount of characters that you can organize on your team. I've always liked strategizing, and there's plenty to strategize about. And with the new animated series, Raid called The Arbiter, releasing on YouTube, the game is getting updated with a ton of new content and lore. And Kale still looks as OP as ever. If you haven't started playing yet, definitely use my link in the description or scan my QR code to get some great goodies like the Epic Champion Talia and other bonuses. So hit my link in the description and I'll see you on the battlefield. And a huge thanks to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video and supporting me as a creator on YouTube. So let's talk about how you get off this sky island normally. Typically, Link must navigate the island going from shrine to shrine to unlock new abilities. Alongside these new abilities, he'll also get these light orb things that function just like the spirit orbs in Breath of the Wild. You need 4 of these bad boys to get access to a 4th heart, so you can exit the back of the Temple of Time. There's a broken bridge that extends out of the back of the temple that requires the Ascend ability in multiple spots. This ultimately leads you to where you skydive to Hyrule down below. Now, it was on this quest that I realized something very important. The Ultra Hand ability can build the most important structures known in the world of Zelda. Stupidly long bridges and ramps. Can you think of anything more incredible than merging 10 pieces of wood together to make this? Hold that thought, because while I was having a blast going through this island the first time with my long bridge, it was only the beginning. Because on my second run, that's when my brain got going. We were going to get off this island early with only the Ultra Hand ability, and absurdly long bridges were going to be the answer. Maybe. Have some faith, because we need a bridge to get us behind the Temple of Time. So there are these boards that are next to the Ultra Hand Shrine that lead over to another set of boards. And I don't know if you're meant to combine them all, but we are. We're also going to head down below and grab all these logs and then try to merge this giant log train to our giant board. Now, trying to put these things together is problematic because they are so long that the world itself is getting in the way. I'm trying to rotate these around and they keep getting stuck on stuff, and trying to make the ends line up is a nightmare. So eventually, I do get them merged, but in the wrong spot. The logs are misaligned slightly. So I'm thinking, oh, I'll just break this off and redo it. Silly me, because when I break this off, the giant log train that I built, kinda snapped off and then fell down the cliff. And this is when I realized just how brutal this was going to be. But we move on. Also, real quick, I should mention that saving your game does not save object locations in this area. So, reloading a save wouldn't bring back any Ultra Hand constructions on this island. So we salvage the rest of our bridge, and we go over the shrine, and then down to another section with even more wooden boards. And so we add these wooden boards to our enormous bridge, and our collection has now grown quite a lot, and our bridge is more impressive than ever. So, bridge in hand, it is now time to scale the temple. The real problem here is trying to position our board to actually make it to the top. It's so long and it's so difficult to control, and it gets stuck against the bottom of the lake and this upper part of the temple. So at this point, I just decide to leave it here because it is literally like the bottom of it's in the lake and the top of it is basically touching the temple. So I run up it thinking that, oh, I will just take the end of it and reposition it to get across to the island adjacent to us. And that was a mistake. So I drop the bridge, and the bridge had other plans as it flops around and falls. And my heart sank as it fell off the map and was destroyed. That was like 30 minutes of work, and now I had to start over. But now, knowing the route, I was able to rebuild everything and get back over here within 10 minutes. And this time, we're gonna go up to the higher Sky Island to then cross over top the temple. So I plop down my enormous bridge, and I walk up to the area that we aren't supposed to be in yet. And walking up this, you can appreciate the sheer scale of this bridge. Okay, so now we're gonna take this bridge and reposition it so the top is against the Temple of Time, and we're gonna put the bottom between these trees to hopefully hold it in place, and now we're gonna jump on top, and I hate my life. Maybe bridges aren't the smartest option, but there are some floating platforms around the island that can make things a lot easier. Originally, I was going to use zonai fan devices to fly around, but I haven't gotten the battery pack yet. But screw that. If we use 2 floating platforms, we can essentially rotate them back and forth and use Ultra Hand to make them swap positions. With this, we can fly anywhere. It's absolutely slow as heck, but it gets the job done. Sorta. So there's a built-in anti-game breaking safety feature with these floating platforms that I did not know about, and as you continue to move them farther away from their origin point, well, after a certain amount of distance, they will just unload. So realizing this kind of put a damper in things, but I was using platforms that were on the back of the map. So I realized why not just use the ones up front? Thankfully, there are some not too far from the Temple of Time, and we can use those. But before we do, we want to grab some items. There is one piece of gear we can get early that you normally don't learn to use until the end of the island, the zonai wing. There are 3 of these stored in a treasure chest that we can access with Ultra Hand early. So we are going to snag these. Now the real question becomes, can these floating platforms reach the back of the Temple of Time? Or will they despawn due to the distance? Well, my first attempt failed because I missed the jump. Mind you, I'm about 2 hours into this adventure so far, and deaths really hurt because most of the time items will despawn. I decided to be a bit smarter the second time and bring 3 platforms and a stack of boards with me. If for some reason these platforms despawned, I was hoping I could use the wooden boards to get past the broken segments of the bridge behind the temple. The trek over there was rather slow, but I made it. However, I was right. As soon as I landed, the platforms started to vanish. Luckily, 2 of the platforms I grabbed were closer in distance to the temple, so I was able to get all the way across to the end. But then the other platforms reached their max distance and unloaded. So I only had my trusty stack of wood with me. Here was my plan. I know if I died over here, I'd probably respawn on this platform, but my items may disappear. So I wanted to test some theories. The normal event that takes place in this area wasn't active, so that wasn't a good sign. But the first thing I wanted to try was that I wanted to use the absolute edge of this platform to build a makeshift launch pad for my zonai wing. I can't make a wing fly or move without Ultra Hand or a ramp, so I constructed a ramp out of wood. To make sure I wouldn't lose the ramp, I put the wooden construction through the stone pillars in the back and then rotated one board to make an anchor. This would allow me to put any amount of weight on the edge of this bridge without the fear of the bridge itself tipping over and falling. I then added my zonai wing to the end of the bridge, so if I sat on the zonai wing, I could then use Ultra Hand behind me to snap off this end of the bridge. In theory, this would create a sliding ramp that would let the zonai wing fly. Except I goofed up and broke the bridge structure too far back, and I died. However, upon respawning, my bridge was still there. This unfortunately proved that jumping off this area early would not allow us to leave the island due to the death barrier. But I had another chance to hopefully fly past the death barrier, so I wanted to give it a whirl. With another zonai wing in place, I attempted the same thing with a shorter bridge. And I fell again, but I managed to climb onto the wing and make it correct itself in free fall. We weren't going in the direction I wanted to, but my heart was pounding so fast that I was just thankful to be alive. I tried to course correct a bit, but I just wanted to get as far away from the island as possible. And then, the zonai wing just vanished. It did not despawn the same way as the floating platforms with a flickering green flash, it just straight up faded away, and I died. So my efforts were unfortunately in vain. But not a bad attempt for trying this on the first day the game came out. Okay, fast forwarding time. So it's been a few days now since I last recorded this, and it was already edited, but I wanted to add this to the video. There is some grim news. If any of you remember the issues speedrunners had with the Great Plateau and Breath of the Wild, well, those same issues persist here, at least based on my current understanding. We have what looks to be a 1,600 cubic meter region that encompasses this Great Sky Island. And if Link or an object attempts to leave this area in any capacity, a void out will occur. This is why my zonai wing just vanished. If we were somehow beyond this region, at least based on this current information, that could change. It looks like the game will do something similar to Breath of the Wild, where Link's coordinates are referenced and he'll get punished for being outside this box's range. So unfortunately, there may not be any way off the Great Sky Island early, and even if we did make it out of this preventative cubic barrier, we'd be doomed, which is a bit disheartening, but perhaps someone will figure out a way. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed my feeble attempts and possibly learned something new in this video, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!